Sorry I'm late. I had to eat.
2:24 p.m. he tweeted, quote, Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution. USA demands the truth. Over an hour and a half into the attack, and this is what he tweeted. And he still, even at this point, did not acknowledge the attack on the Capitol, let alone condemn it. Instead, he further incites the mob against his own vice president, whose life was being threatened. Well, some of you may say, well, who was paying attention anyway? Well, that mob was paying attention.
Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution, giving states a chance to certify a corrected set of facts, not the fraud.
Bro, this is so wild, yo.
Which they were asked to previously certify. U.S. demands the truth.
Mike Pence is a bitch! Mike Pence is a bitch!
They are, yo.
Can I speak to Pelosi? Yeah, we're coming, bitch. Oh, Mike Pence, we're coming for you too, fucking traitor.
Oh my God.
Donald J. Trump sent a tweet out saying that Mike Pence let us down. Mike Pence let us down.
Word for word, yo. Word for word, yo. This shit is crazy. This shit is nuts.
The insurgents amplified.
Yeah, it's still
President
going,
Trump's
Jake. It's
tweet
going to be going for a
attacking
while.
the
I'm
vice
going to
president
stream it as
with a
long as I
bullhorn.
can.
They were paying attention. And they also followed instructions. In fact, the insurgents were at one point, as you saw, 60 feet away from the vice president and the vice president's family.
He was
Some
60
of these
feet away
insurgents
from
were
getting
heard saying,
clapped.
quote, that they hope to find Vice President Mike Pence and execute him by hanging him from a Capitol Hill tree as a traitor. And then they erected a gallows with a noose.
That shit is nuts. That shit is extra.
This
that shit
is what
is
Donald
full
Trump
fucking blast, yo.
incited.
That shit is crazy.
Please take a close look at that picture. It harkens back to our nation's worst history of lynching. A president's words have the power to move people to action. These were the results.
Yo, thanks for the like, lady.
And why did the president incite such rage against the vice president? He was fulfilling his constitutional duty, as we all were that day. Vice presidents in this country have been carrying out this constitutional duty, overseeing the certification of the election results without incident, without contest, without a word for the entirety of our nation. It's part of our
This man
peaceful
Trump,
transition
yo.
of power
This shit is
in the
nuts.
United States.
I don't know. I can't wait
And
to
the
see
vice
the
president
Republicans'
said he
defense
reviewed the
against all this shit.
Constitution,
I
and he
can't
could
wait to see the
not block
defense. That shit's going to be
certification
insane.
As President Trump wanted him and was pressuring him to do. He told the president in a letter that morning, a few hours before President Trump's tweet, quote, I will approach this moment with a sense of duty and an open mind, setting
We
politics
are
and
interrupting for
personal
just a few
interests
seconds
aside
so some of our
and do
stations
my
can leave
part
us for
to
local coverage for
faithfully
everyone else.
discharge my duties,
We'll return you
our
back to the
duties,
trial.
under the Constitution. I also pray that we will do so with humility and faith. And the president's response to that statement was to attack Mike Pence while he was with his family under the threat of a violent mob.
That's so
The
crazy,
vice
yo.
president
Imagine
was
somebody
following his
sends
faith,
hella goons after
his
you,
duty,
and then
and
they're
his
tweeting
oath
at you while the
to our
goons are
nation.
looking for you in your house or
And
at
the
your
vice
job,
president
yo.
and I
Somebody sends like 50
don't
goons to
agree
come
on too
see you at
much
your
in
job.
politics,
You're hiding in the fucking broom closet while
but
you
he's a
hear
man
him in
who
your job
upholds
looking
his
for you.
oath,
Like, where is he?
his faith,
Where is he? You look at
his
your
duty,
phone and see he's tweeting
and
at
most
you,
of all,
yo.
upholds the
That shit's
Constitution.
crazy.
And Mike Pence is not a traitor to this country. He's a patriot. And he and his family, who was with him that day,
Yo, thanks for the stars, bro. I appreciate you, Dante.
didn't deserve this. Didn't deserve a president unleashing a mob on them, especially because he was just doing his job. As this was unfolding and the crowd grew more violent,
Bro, they brought all that
the
shit.
president,
They
of
built that
course,
fucking gallows
was
up
not alone
ASAP.
at
They
the
had the
White
2x4s and everything. That shit's crazy.
and the people closest to him, his family and advisors who saw this unfolding in real time, begged him, implored him to stop the attack.
This shit is
An
wild,
aide to Mark
Dante.
Meadows,
The more I see of this
president's
shit, the
chief of
more
staff,
wild it gets for me. This shit's been a roller
urged his
coaster from
boss to go
start to
see the
finish, and I have
president,
not
saying,
been able to
quote,
get off.
"They are going to kill people. They're going to kill people." That's what those around President Trump feared. And still, nothing. It wasn't until 2:38 p.m., nearly 2 hours after the start of the siege, that Donald Trump even acknowledged the attack. And when he finally did acknowledge the attack, here's what he said.
Yeah, I've been
On the
streaming
right,
since like
you'll see
11:30,
what had been
just
happening
watching it,
prior
just
to that
following
tweet,
along,
and as
going
he
back
sent
and
the
forth with
tweet.
viewers, of course.
And
but-
on the left, you'll see exactly what he tweeted.
I'm going to stop you there for just one moment because we do have some breaking news. We want to bring in congressional correspondent Chad Pergram, as this is just all developing right now.
My man
Chad,
said
I
stay
understand the
peaceful
Capitol
while they
is
were
now
beating on the
lockdown.
police. He's saying they're truly on the side of the country. This is what was happening while he was tweeting. Yo, this is petty. This is receipts right here. This is receipts.
The most today was fight for Trump, and that's clearly what many of them feel they're doing.
It's about to get real grim because the thing is, Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert and Andy Harris and them are about to vote to reject the impeachment. He's not going to get convicted. He's not going to get convicted. That means he's going to run again in 2024. And even if he doesn't run again in 2024, he's still a kingmaker.
That's what our president saw unfolding in real time, broadcast all over television. And this is what he tweeted at 2:38 p.m. Quote, "Please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. They're truly on the side of our country. Stay peaceful." And much has been made of the fact that in this tweet, he says, "Stay peaceful." Senators, stay peaceful? Think about that for a second. These folks were not peaceful.
Right.
They were breaking windows.
They were never
pushing through
peaceful
law
at any
enforcement
point.
officers, waving the flag as they invaded this Capitol building. This was a violent, armed attack. Stay peaceful? How about
This
stop
man
the
has heat
attack?
for him, too.
Stop the violence. Stay peaceful? How about you say immediately leave? Stop. And he said, "Please support our law enforcement."
While they were getting
How about
duffed.
he actually support our law enforcement by telling these insurgents to leave the Capitol immediately,
Right.
which he never did.
Sure didn't.
He didn't. Because the truth is, he didn't want it to stop. He wanted them to stay and to stop the certification.
Facts.
And his failure had grave and deadly consequences. By 2:45 p.m., the warnings were tragically proven correct. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an officer as she tried to break through a glass door to reach the Speaker's lobby. At this point, the pleas to Donald Trump, publicly and privately, grew even more
Trump's
desperate.
kids are all pieces of
At
shit, too.
2:54 p.m., Alyssa Farah, a former strategic communications director, begged the president, quote, "Condemn this now. You're the only one they will listen to. For our country." Mick Mulvaney, the president's former chief of staff, his right-hand man at one point, tweeted at 3:01, "The president's tweet is not enough. He can stop this now and needs to do exactly that.
Hopefully Barron
Tell these folks
will be
to
better than
go
the rest of them."
home. He can stop this now. Tell these folks to go home. At 3:06 p.m., Rep. McCarthy appeared on Fox News. Here's what he said.
I could not be sadder or more disappointed with the way our country looks at this very moment. People are getting hurt. Anyone involved in this, if you're hearing me,
That's ether.
This is not
That's
the American
ether.
way.
From Fox News, though, that's
saying
fucking
on
ether.
Fox News, which the president watches, this is not the American way. Stop the attack. Representative Gallagher at 3:11 p.m., while secured in his own office, posted a video to Twitter.
Mr. President, you have got to stop this. You are the only person who can call this off.
Wild.
Call it off.
And then
I couldn't keep track of all
when
this
the
either.
president
I didn't
didn't answer
realize
his
how
pleas on
much
Twitter,
people had
Representative
told him
Gallagher went on
to
live
chill.
television.
I mean, this is insane. I mean, I've not seen anything like this since I deployed to Iraq in 2007 and 2008. I mean, this is America, and this is what's happening right now. We need.
That's exactly what that was, Dante.
Like, call it off. Call it off.
Representative Gallagher, you see there, said he'd not seen anything like this since he was deployed in Iraq. The message around the president was clear from everyone. You need to call this off. Stop it. But does he? No.
No, sir.
His next tweet was not until about 3:13 p.m. Once again, it's important to consider what was happening between Donald Trump's 2:38 p.m. tweet and his next tweet at 3:13 p.m. You'll see footage from the attack during that time on the right and Donald Trump's tweet on the left.
Oh, my goodness.
We've been informed that protesters have penetrated the Capitol.
This is my fucking building. Hey, we got a fucking attitude problem over here.
Tell you, the sentiment in the streets is really getting to a different level. This is spinning out of control. This is turning violent. This is getting dangerous.
America got one idea. Don't touch me, bro.
Oh, my God.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yo. Bruh. Holy shit.
This isn't 10 minutes into the insurrection. This isn't just after his speech earlier that day. That's what our commander-in-chief saw happening, and that was his response.
They've had
You'll
mad
notice
footage on deck, Dante. Not all of it's been
one of the
hidden.
things he says to his mob, to these insurrectionists.
Some of it's been new footage
rather
that
than
we
to
just saw
stop or
today,
to
but a
leave,
lot of it is just collected
was to say thank
everything
you.
at once that was already out.
Thank you. Thank you for what? Thank you for shattering the windows and destroying property. Thank you for injuring more than 140 police officers. Thank you for putting in danger all of our lives and the lives of our families.
It was a lot to
How
keep
about
up with.
instead
I didn't
of
see
thank
all
you,
of it.
Donald Trump on that day acted like our commander-in-chief and stopped this as only he could and told those people to leave. And here's what former Governor Chris Christie, his very good friend, said after that tweet.
Pretty simple. The president caused this protest to occur. He's the only one who can make it stop. What the president says is not good enough. The president has to come out and tell.
And to a certain extent, the Republicans have to throw him under the bus because they know that they're just as responsible for this shit too.
To do their business peacefully. And anything short of that is an abrogation of his responsibility.
He's right.
They also didn't show
Chris
us a lot,
Christie is
Dante.
right.
And a lot of the stuff I've seen
We know
today
how Donald
is
Trump
nuts.
acts on
I didn't
Twitter and
realize how
otherwise
close the
when
mob
he has a
came
message
to the
to
senators.
convey. In fact,
See,
I
I didn't
asked
realize
you
how
to
close they came
those
to,
tweets earlier this morning
Mike Pence.
when he yelled on Twitter, "Stop the count." When he wanted to incite his supporters to show up on January 6th, President Trump tweeted 16 times between midnight on January 5th.
That's
and
also
his
why they're
noon
doubling
rally
down.
speech
That's fair.
The next day.
Because if they admit that he did wrong, then they also have to
16
admit that they did
times
wrong. Because
to
they're
get them
all
to
on
do
that stop
something
the
he
steal
wanted.
shit.
And his message in those 16 times was clear.
Yeah, they came within 60 feet
Stay strong.
of
Be strong.
Mike Pence. The very beginning of this stream I'm on
But
right
when the
now,
violence started,
I cut in right when this dude
he
right
never
here was
once
talking about how close they came to Mike
said
Pence.
the one thing everyone
And Trump was
around him
tweeting at Mike
was
Pence,
begging
talking
him
shit to him and
say,
about him while the mob was running down on him.
Stop the attack.
It's crazy.
He refused to stop it. And as Governor Christie and Representative Kinzinger and others made clear, only Donald Trump could have stopped
basically,
that attack.
Fade Runner.
You know, a guy that knows how to tweet very aggressively on Twitter, you know, puts out one of the weakest statements in one of the saddest days in American history because his ego won't let him, you know, admit defeat.
He was not just our commander-in-chief. He had incited the attack. The insurgents were following his commands. And we saw when they read aloud this tweet, attacking the vice president. And they confirmed this during the attack, too.
We're outnumbered. There's a fucking million of us out there, and we are listening to Trump. You're a boss.
Damn.
Senators, ask yourself this. How easy would it have been for the president to give a simple
as much
command?
I feel the same way. As much as a scumbag as Mike Pence was, I'm glad he didn't
Just
try to
telling
pull
them,
some fuckery.
stop.
And now I low-key feel bad for him because he almost
Leave.
got clapped. He came
This was a dereliction
so
of duty.
close, yo. So close.
Plain and simple.
So insanely close.
And it would have been for any president who had done that. And that brings me to my next point. You heard from my colleagues that
Put it this
planning
way, yo.
attack,
I
the
survived
insurgents
a house
predicted
fire. That shit was
that
crazy.
Donald Trump would
He
command
came
the
closer to
National
these
Guard
people looking for
to
him to
help
beat his
them.
ass and kill him than I came to the flames
And
when
there's
my
a
house
lot that
burned
we
down.
don't know
yo.
yet about
That's
what
how
happened
close
that
he
day.
came.
But here's what we do know. Donald Trump did not send help to these officers who were badly outnumbered, overwhelmed, and being beaten down. 2 hours into the insurrection, by 3 p.m., President Trump had not deployed the National Guard or any other law enforcement to help, despite multiple pleas to do so.
Unbelievable, yo.
President Donald Trump
Unbelievable.
was at the time our commander-in-chief of the United States of America. He took a solemn oath to preserve, protect, and defend this country, and he failed to uphold that oath. In fact, there's no indication that President Trump ever made a call to have the Guard deployed or had anything to do with the Guard being deployed when it ultimately was. And shortly after 3:04 p.m., the acting defense secretary announced that the Guard had been activated and listed the people he spoke with prior to this activation, including Vice President Mike Pence, Speaker Pelosi, Leader McConnell, Senator Schumer, and Representative Hoyer. But that list did not include the president. This omission of his name was reportedly not accidental. According to reports,
Mike Pence is a
quote,
dumbass.
Trump initially rebuffed requests to mobilize the National Guard and required interference by other officials, including his own White House counsel. And later, quote, as a mob of Trump supporters breached police barricades and seized the Capitol, Trump reportedly was, quote, disengaged in discussions with Pentagon leaders about deploying the National Guard to aid the overwhelmed U.S. Capitol Police. President Trump was reportedly, and I quote, completely, totally out of it. He made no attempt to reach the National Guard, and it was Vice President Pence, still under the threat for his life, who reportedly spoke to the Guard. President Trump's conduct confirms this too. At no point on January 6th did Donald Trump
Mike Pence
even
is also
reference
like
the
just
National
straight up
Guard.
deliberately evil. Thanks
The
for
only thing that we heard connecting the president to the Guard was from his press secretary, who tweeted about the Guard being deployed at the president's direction over half an hour later at 3:36 p.m.
I think Mike Pence is going to back out of politics
when he
for a
tries
minute,
to
honestly.
take credit for
I think he's going
something.
to be good for a while.
And yet, even when the National Guard was finally deployed, he didn't even acknowledge it. In fact, he didn't say a word about the National Guard the entire day. Think about that. The bloodiest attack we've seen on our Capitol since 1812.
Yikes.
And our president couldn't be bothered to even mention that help was on its way. These insurgents had been attacking our government for over 4 hours by that point. And we may have been the target, but it was the brave men and women who protect our Capitol who were out there combating thousands of armed insurgents in a fight for their lives. And that's who Donald Trump left entirely unprotected.
That's crazy.
And this is hard to watch, but I think it's important we understand what the Capitol Police were facing, how severely they were outnumbered.
Elizabeth Warren,
Commander-in-Chief,
she's a
whose
liberal.
job it was to protect and defend them,
I'm
just
in
watching,
Arcata, so I
doing
don't
nothing
support really any
for hours,
U.S. politician.
refusing
I support
to send help.
the abolition of the United States
If he wanted
government.
to protect these officers,
That's the only
if he
thing I
cared
can
about their
fully
safety,
100
as he
throw
tweeted
my
about,
support behind. But
he would have told his supporters to
Elizabeth
leave.
Warren's not as
He would
terrible
have sent
as some of the
help
other people
right away.
in there. That's for sure.
And one brave officer was killed. Others took their lives after the attack. More than 140 police officers were injured, including cracked ribs, smashed spinal discs. One officer will lose an eye.
Oh my God.
Another was stabbed with a metal fence stake. They were completely and violently overwhelmed by a mob and needed help. And our commander-in-chief,
Yeah, that dude got
President
his
Trump,
eye gouged out.
refused to send it.
That's so
Senators,
crazy. That's so fucking crazy. There's video of that.
you've seen all
too.
the evidence so far.
There's video of that. That's so crazy.
And this is clear. On January 6th, President Trump left everyone in this Capitol for dead. For the next hour, after President Trump's 3 p.m. tweet, he still did nothing. Not until 4:17 p.m., over 3.5 hours after the violence started, did our president send a message finally asking the insurgents to go home. On the right, you'll see what happened that day in the hours leading up to his pre-recorded video. On the left, you'll see his message. Let's watch.
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. but you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt. It's a very tough period of time.
He's saying that after
There's
somebody
never been
already
a
got their
time
eye
like this
gouged
where
out, somebody got their ribs
such
cracked,
a thing
somebody got
happened where they
tased
could
till they had
take
a
it
heart
away
attack.
from all of us, from me, from you, from our country. This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel. But go home and go home in peace.
This is the first time our commander-in-chief spoke publicly at all since the attack began, over the 3.5 hours after it started. And these are the entirety of the words the president spoke out loud to the American people or to the attackers that entire day. Nowhere in that video, not once, did he say, I condemn this insurrection. I condemn what you did today. Nowhere did he say, I'm sending help immediately.
Yeah, that
Stop
video was
this.
not convincing.
Here's what he said instead. I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen. Even after all the things we witnessed, even after all of that carnage, he goes out and tells the same big lie. The same big lie that enraged and incited the attack. He repeated this.
That's so crazy.
While the attack was ongoing and while we were still under threat. And here's what else he said. Go home in peace. We love you. You're very special. Senators, you were here. You saw this with your own eyes. You faced that danger. And when President Trump had an opportunity to confront them, as the leader of us all, as our commander-in-chief, what did he tell them? We love you. You're very special.
Wow.
This was not a condemnation.
They're ethering him.
This was a message of consolation, of support, of praise. And if there's any doubt that his supporters, these insurgents, took this as a message of support and praise, watch for yourselves.
Donald Trump asked everybody to go home. He just said, he just put out a tweet. It's a minute long. He asked everybody to go home. Why do you think so? Because, dude, we won the fucking day. We fucking won. How did we win? Well, we won by sending a message to the senators and the congressmen. We won by sending a message to Pence. Okay.
Hey, look at that symbol on his chest, Fade.
Look
at that symbol on his chest.
If they don't uphold the Constitution,
I wonder where I've seen that before.
we will remove them from
I know I've
office
seen it
one way
somewhere
or
before.
another.
I can't quite put my finger on it.
I suspect you recognize that man. You'll hear him say that we won the day. Who won the day? We know that at least 5 people lost their lives that day. The House and the Senate were in life-threatening danger, and so was the Vice President. And think of everyone else here as well. Who won on January 6th?
Yeah, they're booty blasting Trump right now. He's getting
That's
cooked.
not a win for America, but it is a win for Donald Trump unless we hold him accountable.
He's getting cooked.
Now, a little over an hour after that video, the brave members of law enforcement secured the Capitol, and we as a Congress got ready to continue certifying the results of our free and fair election. A half hour after that, President Trump issued another tweet in case there was any doubt as to whether he was happy with the people who did this, as to whether he had incited this. He commemorated what happened on January 6th. At 6:01 p.m. on January 6th, he tweeted, quote, "These are the things and events that happen when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away from great patriots who've been badly and unfairly treated for so long. ending with, "Remember this day forever." My colleague, Manager Cicilline, started with this tweet.
It was already gross when he first posted it and I read it, but now knowing everything I know that they presented today, that makes that tweet so much more gross.
These are the things that happened. He's saying this was foreseeable. He's saying, I told you this was going to happen if you certified the election for anyone else. And you got what you deserved for trying to take my power away.
Platinum. The sad thing is, though, he's not going to get convicted.
Great patriots,
Republicans
go home
aren't going to vote
with love and in peace. Remember this day forever. He's saying to them, you did good. He's not regretful. He's not grieving. He's not sad. He's not angry about the attack. He's celebrating it. He's commemorating it.
They all celebrated it.
This is the entirety of what President Trump said to the public once the attack began. 5 tweets and a pre-recorded video. On the day of the most bloody insurrection we've faced in generations, our commander-in-chief, who's known for sending 108 tweets in a normal day, sent 5 tweets and a pre-recorded video. That is the entirety of President Trump's public statements from when the attack began until he went to bed on January 6th.
That's the thing, Jerson.
That's all he did.
If being there, being actually present for the shit, didn't make them vote,
protect, and defend
to certify the election the night of, I don't think this footage is gonna persuade them.
He began the day with, quote,
I think they're gonna vote in
enough.
favor of Trump again, just like they did the night of the 6th.
And that's what this is all about. And he ended the attack letting us know that we got what he forewarned that morning. We will, of course, each of us, remember that day forever, but not in the way that President Trump intended. Not because of the actions of these violent, unpatriotic insurrectionists. I'll remember that day forever, because despite President Trump's vicious attempts throughout the day to encourage the siege and block the certification, he failed. At 8:06 p.m., the Senate gavelled into session, and the counting of the electoral votes continued. About an hour later, the House followed suit. And close to 4 a.m., after spending a significant part of the day evacuated or on the floor or hiding, this great body fulfilled the will of the people and certified the Electoral College vote.
He's gonna either he runs in 2024 or he decides who wins the Republican vote in 2024.
On that day. And I'm proud that I and everyone in this room abided by our oath of office, even if the president didn't abide by his. And President Trump, too, took an oath as president. He swore on a Bible to preserve, protect, and defend. And who among us can honestly say they believe that he upheld that oath? And who among us will let his utter dereliction of duty stand?
He has some heat. Who's up next?
Mr. President, the managers are prepared to recess for the evening and to finish our opening statement tomorrow.
Oh, so it's over now. So that's it then.
Mr. President. Mr. President. Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Pursuant to Impeachment Rule 16, I make a motion. Statements were attributed to me moments ago by the House impeachment managers. Statements relating to the content
of
conversations between a phone call involving President Trump and Senator Tuberville were not made by me. They're not accurate, and they're contrary to fact. I move, pursuant to Rule 16, that they be stricken from the record.
See what I'm talking about, yo? The Republicans are not going to convict him, dude. The Republicans are not going to convict him.
Pursuant to Senate Resolution 47, Section 4, parties' presentations are not limited to the record provided for in Section 1 of that resolution. Senator,
I appeal the ruling of the chair.
I couldn't hear what he said.
I appeal the ruling of the chair, Mr. President.
Mr. President, Mr. President, right here, we might as well hear clearly what the ruling of the chair was. So if you would repeat that.
Of course, I will. And pursuant to Senate Resolution 47, Section 4, the parties' presentations are not.
Yeah, they're already setting themselves up. They're already setting themselves up.
Yeah.
There you go. It's on now.
Pursuant to Senate Resolution 47, Section 4, parties' presentations are not limited to the record provided for in Section 1 of that resolution. The senator from Utah has appealed that ruling. Is that correct?
Yes, I have.
Have you? And the yeas and nays have been requested for sufficient.
And what is the question? Is it shall the ruling of the chair be sustained? Is that the question?
Why do these motherfuckers not have masks on? Look how ancient they are.
No.
They'll get put in a spliff quicker than anybody, and they're the ones out here with no fucking mask on.
My point was not about whether it's appropriate for them to make characterizations. My point was to strike them because they were false.
The question is whether the ruling of the chair that Senate Resolution 47 applies to this situation is correct.
The question is whether Senate Resolution 47, Section 4, is correct. The parties' presentations are not limited to the record provided for in Section 1 of that resolution.
Mr. President, that is not my motion. You've ruled on a motion. You've ruled on something that was not what I moved. What I asked was, statements were attributed to me repeatedly, as to which I have personal knowledge because I am the source. They are not true. I never made those statements. I asked that they be stricken. This has nothing to do with whether or not they're based on depositions, which they're not. It's simply based on the fact that I'm the witness. I'm the only witness. Those statements are not true, and I ask that you strike them.
President.
Let him rule.
Mr. President.
So what they're referring to was House impeachment manager David Cicilline, who was
he's big man.
Before they played the Rudy Giuliani voicemail to Tommy Tuberville. This was on the phone call. It was based on a CNN report indicating that he called Mike Lee's cell phone. The president did, and then from there, then Mike Lee apparently handed the phone. This was according to David Cicilline's presentation. So this is basically the moment they're debating right now, and we'll take you back.
Wow, that's petty too. That's petty as fuck. That's fucking petty.
The yeas and nays have been asked for.
The yeas and nays have been requested.
Let him explain. Please let him explain, Mr. President. Why is it false? What was not false? What was false about it?
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to answer the senator's question.
Is not in order under Senate Resolution 47, Section 4. Parties' presentation not limited to the record provided for in Section 1 of that resolution. And that has been appealed. The yeas and nays have been requested. The clerk will call the roll.
That man is old as fuck. They need to get him the fuck out of here because he doesn't know what he's doing up there.
Watching all this
he has no clue what he's fucking doing up there.
So Casey,
he's dumb as fuck. He's getting on my nerves with how fucking stupid he is. As stupid, as petty as the appeal was.
What is the question?
This judge not knowing what the fuck is going on is pissing me off just as bad.
Yeah, we're not allowed to here. Yes?
Casey Hunt, you want to? Are they waiting? Are they looking for a parliamentarian ruling here?
Chuck, this is all very confusing, and we're trying to sort through it right along with all of our viewers. The challenge here is that, and you summed it up nicely, what Senator Lee is objecting to, which is how this account of what happened on the day, this call from President Trump that had reportedly come in to Senator Lee. The issue here is senators are actually not allowed to speak on the floor during an impeachment trial. You may remember that from the last time we did this about a year ago. They are allowed to make motions. So I think what Schumer may have been referring to there as he was caught on that microphone is that they can't really have this conversation here. There is obviously some confusion on the dais on the part of Leahy, who is presiding, and potentially the parliamentarian as well. It's been difficult to decipher exactly which rule they are trying to sort out. And as you can see, the senators are now gathering around what is the majority leader's desk now in the Senate to try and figure this out. And that voice that you heard there was Senator Joe Manchin speaking up and saying that he wants an explanation for what exactly was false in the manager's presentation. The other piece of this, Chuck, that I can provide some backstory here. Again, I've said this earlier on in the day. We, as TV networks, are sharing limited spots in the galleries where you can watch these proceedings. And our pool reporter from ABC was in the chamber as Cicilline was making this presentation, and she was actually watching Mike Lee, and she reports that he started scribbling furiously on a pad. She could read from where she was, and again, it's pretty close, so it makes some sense here. She said she could read, "This is not what happened," on the piece of paper, and then he folded that paper into thirds and handed it to David Schoen, President Trump's lawyer, who then nodded in response and said yes. So clearly there's been some communication on this ahead of time. Mike Lee, I think we should remind everyone, is, I mean, Chuck, you know this well, he is somebody who focuses quite a bit on, I would say he's a stickler for the rules, if you will.
He's a procedure guy. Yeah, he likes
exactly.
to find, he likes to, yes, he digs into procedure. We'll just leave it at that, yes.
Exactly, and he wants to, do everything exactly by the book here. He's somebody who would know, for example, all of these, and they're arcane rules. I mean, they just are. They've been used very few times in history, but of course they've been used more often now. So they are clearly conferring there.
That's what's so crazy. Nobody thought
Jamie
to
Raskin,
even check on any of this shit until they had to use it on
Senator
Trump.
Durbin. And Chuck, I'll send it back to you because it looks like we might get some more
I
here.
was just going to say, it looks like, it's one of those cases in a normal trial. They might there'd be an objection. Somebody might withdraw that part. This obviously being a lot more complicated, and frankly, it's more complicated because Pat Leahy is harder to understand with a mask, when he's wearing a mask, Casey.
Facts.
No, he is.
As we all are.
That's absolutely true. I mean, and also just keep in mind, this is not something that anyone would necessarily be, have at their fingertips. I mean, presumably he has studied for this, but unlike normal procedures in the Senate where people, you know it by the back of your hand, the way that you would recite the Pledge of Allegiance in school or something like that, an impeachment trial is not that way. So Leahy's also, obviously, of course, one of the older members of the Senate. He's the longest serving Democrat, which as the majority party, that's the reason he's in that chair. So, I think there are clearly some factors that are contributing to the confusion here. It sounds like the clerk is now potentially calling the roll on this, but as you can see, there still seems to be a fair degree of confusion here on the floor. As you can see, I think we're looking mostly there at Democrats, or what the camera is showing. Now we're getting a wide shot
with Mike Lee. Yeah, we're starting to see that.
Of the chamber, right? Yeah, no. So it looks like they are going to proceed to a vote on this ruling. There you see Schumer again speaking with Senator Lee. This is an exercise in looking at the back of people's heads.
Yeah, I was just going to say the head nods at least indicate that they're going to come to some sort of resolution here.
Indeed.
If we're going to read some body language. Let's go big picture here before we go back, Casey. Sure. I mean, this sort of went in the order we expected today, right? The very methodical case. Oh, well, let's go back.
Mr. President, we need order.
Senate will be in order.
Okay.
Consent to officiate the appeal request that I made.
Without
withdraw the request.
Wait, before he withdraws.
The yeas and nays?
Just hold on.
I withdraw the request for the yeas and nays.
Without objection.
Without objection.
Okay, and I withdraw the quorum call and call on the manager, Mr. Raskin, for a brief statement.
The impeachment manager, Mr. Cicilline, correctly and accurately quoted a newspaper account, which the distinguished senator has taken objection to. So we're happy to withdraw it.
It's not true, and it's
on the grounds that it is not true, and we are going to.
Pastor repeated it too.
Okay, we're going to withdraw it this evening and without any prejudice to the ability to resubmit it if possible, and then we can debate it if we need it, but it's not, this is much ado about nothing because it's not critical in any way to our case.
You're not the one being cited as a witness, sir.
Right. Shut your dumb ass up. This man, he's mad. He's big mad.
So the managers
Well, it looks like we got a little politics in there at the end there of back and forth.
His request,
yeah, sure, Miss Raccoon. I'm probably going to end it after this.
If we have to. I now ask unanimous consent. The trial adjourn until 12 noon tomorrow, Thursday, February 11th.
12 noon.
And this also constitutes the adjournment of the Senate.
The objection,
I'm about to fall asleep.
So ordered. Senate stands adjourned.
All right, Casey Hunt, we are back. Let's go big picture. We got that resolved. We had actually foreshadowed the playing of that infamous Rudy Giuliani voice.
So, yeah. So that's it for today. Sorry I was late on the second half of it, but I was eating, I was hungry, and I'm kind of tired. I'm probably gonna watch some YouTube and take myself a little power nap or just go straight to sleep now. Yeah, if you want to message me or something, feel free to do that, Raccoon, if you don't want to ask me live on air here. But yeah. Right on, right on. Let me. You already know. So, on that note, I'm gonna be out of here. And I'm gonna take you guys to my boy Sock. So, thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you guys soon.